Okay, people. So today I am joined by Chris Hollo. God damn it, Chris
Hollow. It's
Hollo.
hollow. Yeah.
Yes.
Take two.
Chris, thanks for popping by, man. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure.
So you've got a new film dropping, The Legend of Lake Hollow. Lake,
Yep.
yes. God damn it. Um, This is actually your feature directorial debut. You
It
know, you've
is.
done a lot of shorts, you've done TV,
Yeah.
and now you decided to do a feature.
Yeah.
So, what was it about this? What told you this was the time to step things up?
Well, we had been looking for a bigger project, and I had been sort of. I'm not. Wouldn't call myself a writer. I've written some short stuff, but nothing of any length. And I've been trying to transform ideas into feature length scripts, and I've been struggling with it. So I decided to start looking for scripts instead.
Mm.
And when I found it, at the time, it was called The Secret of Lake Hollow. When I found it, it resonated with me, and I convinced my producing partner to get involved. And that's when we decided it was time to make a feature.
Right, right. Now, it's interesting. You just said that you struggled turning a short idea into a film. Like, what were those struggles? Because I think a lot of people see films and TV and just be like, all right, someone just sat down and wrote it. Is it how hard is
Yeah,
that? You know what I
right.
mean? And it's hard. It's definitely a hard thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, what did you run into with that?
Well, the screenwriting has a certain set of rules that you need to follow, and just the fact that I like what I've written doesn't mean it's any good. And
Mm,
so it has to sort of follow the rules. And I've always thought in terms of scenes, and I can create a scene and I can make a short, which is essentially a scene, into something interesting. But when it came to writing a full length feature, I was just having a hard time getting something that I liked. And I actually have since written a feature length script, sent it out for notes, and I got killed. So I have to go back and do some rejigging on the script. But I'm getting better. I'm a frustrated writer. Like, I would like to be able to write, and I wish I was
mm.
better at it. And I think a lot of it has to do with not spending enough time in the chair writing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, with that, with rules, right? Like, what do you kind of envision? Because there's oftentimes we see those films that don't follow like that typical free act pattern, do
Right.
things in that abstract way, and it works and it's great. So because you do get told, oh no, you meant to do it in this way and it should go like this, but when it isn't followed in that fashion, it doesn't mean it doesn't work. So
Right.
how difficult is it for you to kind of go with your ideas but then try and stick to this guidance that has been set out over all these years?
Well, I think the rules apply more. I think the rules apply more to if you are trying to get someone else to produce your film. If you're just a screenwriter and you're trying to get somebody else to make the film, the rules are more important.
Mm,
If you look at a writer director's script, like if you look at Tarantino's stuff, or you look at other people who write their own material, and then you look at the script is totally not what Hollywood says it should be, right? I mean,
yeah.
it has direction written in, which you don't do. It has a lot of things in it that you shouldn't put in as a screenwriter. You should let the director decide. But if you're the director, you can write that stuff in all you want, and thereby that script doesn't really follow the rules because it is created by the person who's going to shoot it. So, like the script that I wrote is the same thing. I would like to shoot that script. However, I still need to make it follow some baseline rules with character arcs, and there's a lot of stuff you have to kind of work in. So I'm still trying to work that out. But ultimately, I think what I wrote, I could shoot
Mm.
because I know the story better than anyone because I wrote it.
No, that's yeah, that sounds fair. So, when you were looking for scripts,
Mhm.
was there anything that you had in mind? Right? Was there a particular genre, a particular style? What was it that made the secret of Lake Hollow, as it was, jump out at you?
Well, what made it jump out specifically was I'm a still photographer. I have been for 35 years. So I understand still photography and I've done it my whole life. I've never really had an actual day job. And so it has a photography aspect to it that I was attracted to. That's part of it. As far as finding the script originally, you've probably heard of Script Revolution.
Mm.
CJ Wally there in the UK created this platform where writers could put up screenplays of shorts, features, all different genres, any kind of screenplay you want to put up, basically, I think. And what made that valuable to me as a producer, director looking for material was that I could use the search engine within the website to narrow down two locations, strong female lead, horror, whatever I want, right? So I can trim the 4,000 scripts down to 30 or 40 that I want to consider. And that was immensely helpful because I kind of knew what I wanted. And, looking at a list of 4,000 scripts is not really, it doesn't turn me on. So it's like being able to drill down to what you really want. And anticipated budget being under 200,000, all kinds of stuff. So you can really drill down to what you're looking for. And it was just super helpful to be able to find a script that way.
Ah, okay. And what kind of attracted you to horror?
That was partially um, my own interest, but also partially because as a first time director and a first time producer on a feature film, horror kind of has an audience built in. It's a little easier. The returns are generally it's kind of a left brain math decision on that side of it. Our odds were the best of getting our investors' money back. We could shoot it inexpensively. I say inexpensively. It is a lot of money, but relatively inexpensively.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
The audience is built in. We had, it just seemed like a good decision. We're not going to do a sci-fi because of all the special effects. We're not going to do drama because it's just too hard to get a good drama. We're not going to do what was the other one? I don't know. There's just some movies that we're just not going to do because they're just going to be too hard to produce given our
Mm.
budget. So we just wanted to make sure we had an audience. We could do it for the money we thought we could get, and that ultimately it had to interest us as well.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I have heard that. A lot of directors will say that horror is a good entry way
Yeah,
into things.
yep. And honestly, our film is we actually it's funny because we went into it thinking we were making a horror film. In other words, we made a horror we all the way through to the end we thought we were making a horror film, and we were. But when we met with Vision and they were looking at our film for distribution, Lise said, the owner was, she said, well, this is a really great psychological thriller. And we were like, yes, yes, it is. It's not a slasher movie. It doesn't have
Mm.
a ton of blood. It's not, heads being caved in, that sort of thing. So all along, we were a little afraid that people who are real horror fans are going to think it was softcore. It wasn't horror enough. So we were a little afraid the whole time that this it's not going to be bloody enough, and that's not my style. I'm much more interested in the psychological aspect of it and the thriller aspect of it. And so when she said that, she was absolutely right. It's more of a psychological thriller than a horror. But it's funny that we started making the movie thinking we were making a horror film the whole time.
Well, I think horror is one of those odd kind of genres, right? It's a bit like comedy
Mhm.
because it's a blanket term, but there's so many different
Yeah,
varieties, right?
right,
You know, you could say, "Oh, why don't we go to some stand up?" But you know, go see Ari Shafir or Nate Bargatze.
right.
Completely different, but
Completely.
both very funny. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? So
yeah.
it's kind of what do you like? And with horror, yeah, you've got those slashers, you've got stuff like Saw or Nightmare on Elm Street, but then you've got those kind of more subtler kind of affairs, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like a real creepy, suspenseful, but it's still I feel horror. So yeah, it could I can see where it can get difficult. I mean, I think other people have said that. It's just like, yeah, we were worried because you know those hardcore fans they want to see certain things, but
Yeah,
that's not what we do. You know what I
yeah.
mean? So
We were telling people we were making a horror film, and a lot of our friends were saying, "Oh, I can't watch that. I'm out." Like, well, just give it a chance because it's not going to be the kind of horror film that you envision when you think of the word. That's going to be a little bit easier to take than that. It's going to be scary and it's going to be suspenseful. And it's going to keep you on the edge of your seat, but ultimately, it's not going to be a slasher fest
mm,
because I'm just not interested in doing that myself.
yeah, yeah. What have kind of been the horror films that have kind of you know worked for you the best? Would you say?
We actually saw one, The Ritual. Have you seen The Ritual? It's out of the UK, actually.
I think
Um,
I might have.
Take a look at that. That was when we saw that one. That was sort of the aesthetic that we wanted. That was we kind of modeled our film, the kind of the visuals, and that was the closest that we thought our film was to something that was existing.
Okay,
It had a
was
creature. Mhm.
was that a few years ago? Like
Yeah,
it's a family.
it's four friends who go on this adventure to celebrate the death of the fifth friend. And
Yes.
so
Okay.
it's
Yeah, I've
sort
seen
of
that.
it's a bit Cabin in the Woods kind of thing with a creature. It's kind of similar to what we did.
Mm.
But I just liked the movie, and it was suspenseful and not super gory, and a lot of it was shot at night, like our movie, so it had a lot of similarities. I thought.
Mm. So coming into this, what did you think the difficulties would be? And then, you know, once you were done, what actually were the difficulties of making this?
That's a good question. We we are much better. We've actually thought about doing a podcast called "The Lessons of Lake Hollow." All the things we learned on this movie, because when we first read the script, the things that were going to be problematic, we didn't catch. We didn't know that. We didn't think, oh, that'll be no problem. We'll just do that. And then when we got to actually shooting, those things became things that were way harder than we thought.
Mm.
For example, there are trail cameras in our film
Yes.
that expose the creature. And that means that anytime you're shooting, you have to also have the ability to shoot the still that the trail camera took. So you're shooting the scene, and you have a flash go off to indicate that a camera just tripped. You have
Mm.
to also then have that photo to use when they're looking at their phones later on, right? So that we didn't really give enough thought to. Um, the other thing is we thought, well, we'll just green screen the phones and add that later. Well, we would have been much better off shooting that practically. And of course, that would have
Right.
been because of the cost.
Mm.
However, that would have meant that we would have had to have had those photos before we shot the scene.
Right.
So it almost would have meant that we would have had to have done a still photography pass on everything so that we have all the images ready. Then on the day of the shooting of that scene, we just load it on the actor's phone and then you can actually see it practically on their phone.
Mm.
So that was challenging. So we ended up just greening the phones and adding that later, which meant tracking, and it meant having bringing in a special effects guy to add all that green screen because none of us are qualified to do that.
Yeah, that's I wouldn't have thought that, that there's all of that complexity to that shot.
We didn't either.
Yeah.
The other thing was haze or smoke in the woods at night. Um, we that ended up being the biggest time killer was waiting on the smoke to be right because the wind's blowing and you have to move people so that the hazers are in the right place, and and then you call action, and you've got to turn off the hazers because they make a lot of noise, and then you have to wait, and then the haze blows through the shot, and then it becomes clear, and then you have to cut because there's no more haze. So
Right.
if you're doing MOS, you can shoot it with the hazers running all you want, but a lot of it had dialogue. So if you're at night and you're shooting dialogue, you can't have the hazers running while you're shooting, and yet you're at the mercy of the changing wind. So you just don't know what that we ended up wasting a lot of nighttime time by waiting on the fog to be right.
Oh, man. Yeah.
That was a drag.
I can imagine.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh boy.
And usually
Yeah.
half the movie is shot at night. So I think we only had 2 or 3 overnights. Like we would go 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. Most of them we would split the days. So we would start the day at noon, and we would shoot noon to 7 and shoot daytime stuff, then
Mm.
transition to nighttime and do nighttime till midnight, so that we're not killing our actors, and our turnarounds weren't so bad. But yeah, we shot a lot of night stuff. There's one scene in particular that we shot, I swear, over 4 or 5 different nights. We
Right.
broke it up just because it was a big long scene. We couldn't do it all at one night and didn't want to do an overnight with it. So we just kept breaking into smaller pieces and shooting it. There's a scene. I mean, well, we can talk about this. I'm sure you're going to ask me, but we shot this film through COVID.
Yes.
We shot, and that's a whole another story. But there's a scene where a towel is thrown from one guy coming out of the water to the guy from the guy in the land to the guy coming out of the water. That those two scenes, that the two halves of that shot, were shot about a year apart.
What?
The guy throwing the towel was shot one year, and then the next year we go pick up the shot of the guy coming out of the water, and we had to make sure the towel was thrown the right way, and the guy catches the towel. Those two shots were a year apart.
Oh boy. How difficult was that getting those little, what I mean, just those little elements right?
Yeah. Oh, that's why we're thinking of doing the lessons of Lake Hollow, because that sort of thing was just like when we shot the guys on the beat on the shore, it was too cold to put a body in the water.
Right.
We couldn't have the guy in the water in the winter when we shot that. Our movie takes place in the fall, so we, as best we could, stuck to shooting in the fall.
Mm.
We did our interiors as best we could during the summer and spring, and other pickup shots were just randomly thrown in there. But we were trying to avoid having our colorist, kill us over turning green trees into fall-looking trees.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
Boy.
yeah, yeah. Again, the lessons of Lake Hollow are many.
Hey, I mean, do it, man. It will work as a great companion piece to the film. It's like, you don't necessarily get DVDs anymore. So it's like a DVD extra, as it were, but
Right,
as the
right.
podcast.
Well, we're actually planning on taking the film to college film programs and screening the film and then doing a Q&A afterward and kind of giving them that sort of information. Uh,
Mm.
we're both Mark and I. Mark is still teaching. I used to teach college level photography and video, and so we're both essentially teachers at heart. We like teaching, so we're looking forward to taking the film on the road and showing it to film students and answering questions about the towel and fundraising and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah, that will be really good. I mean, I think people would really, and also having a actual, like, recent example. There's
Hmm.
a lot of times when you do these things, it's just theory, and it's just like, imagine if you're in this
Right,
situation, how
right,
would you have, and it's just like,
right.
I mean, it's made up. So there's what are the variables? What are the, but you can actually give people the actual variables, the
Yeah,
actual things that happened, and the roadblocks and barriers and all of
right.
that stuff. So that would be interesting, though.
As fast as things are changing in the film industry, anything longer than 5 years ago doesn't apply anymore with VOD and all the streaming and all the ways that things are being presented to the public.
Mm.
It's so different than it used to be.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I remember watching the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man,
Hmm.
and that came out, you're like, "Oh my God, this is incredible!" And then Spider-Man 2 came out,
Hmm.
and you're just like, oh my God, this is. And
Yeah,
then you see Spider-Man 1, you're like, oh man, that does not look great. But then Spider-Man 2 blew it out the water.
right,
And then
right,
Spider-Man 3, you got Sandman and those effects. You're
right,
just like, yo. But every time, and it wasn't like there was, 10 years in between each film,
right.
but the effects had so vastly improved. It was crazy.
Well, think about this. They're teenagers now aren't going to know that sandworms aren't possible.
Mm,
I mean, the things that they're doing now are entirely believable. And I mean, when you see Jaws and you see the shark, you think, okay, well, that's a fake shark. But nowadays, when you see something, it's entirely believable.
yeah. But there's a problem with that, though, right? Because remember, like when you've heard all those talks about Jaws, the shark was meant to be in it a lot more.
Right. That's right.
It was only not in it because they couldn't get the prosthetic to work.
Right.
But that made the film.
Yeah.
Not seeing the shark made the film. So now, because you can just green screen it in, essentially. I know
Yeah.
there's more to it than that, but
Right.
you can just do that. So people can go, yeah, I want a shark all over the place and doing
Right.
it. And so you get a film, but it's just like, yo, if someone had to really workshop it and really go, okay, we can make this work like this, but we can't have it,
Right.
that could create a better film. But you don't have that barrier now.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm not comparing our film to Jaws, but we follow the similar kind of a methodology where we don't show the creature all the way through.
Mm,
It's not a it's and the other thing I was going to say is, especially with Jaws, is that filmmaking is probably 95% problem solving. Like something goes wrong, the shark doesn't work, it rains, your actor has a cold, and you have to reshoot something. It's nothing but problem solving, really.
yeah.
And the better you are at problem solving, the smoother your production will go.
Yeah, that's the thing, I've done like photo shoots and different things, like large scale international events, things like that.
Yeah.
And there's always stuff that comes. It never goes completely to plan.
No.
And it's all about the contingencies. I
Yeah.
remember I was doing this photo shoot, and I'd got enough budget to do 2 days. So I'd planned it all out, got all my shots ready, and then it was just pouring it down with
Right.
rain.
Yeah.
But because I had a number of indoor shots, I was able just to switch it around. So we went and did the indoor stuff first, and then it stopped raining, and we went and did the outdoor. But it was just like, if I just, you know, planned it day one, all outdoor, day two, all in,
Right.
I'd be messed up. But I had to think, what if? So I made sure I
Yeah.
balanced it out. But it's just, yes, all in the planning.
I don't know where I heard this, but filmmaking is a lot like boxing in that you go into it with a really good game plan, and then the first time you get your bell rung, the plan's off.
Yeah,
Then
yeah, yeah,
you're scrapping and you're figuring out how to make it work.
yeah.
You're just trying to stay alive till tomorrow.
Oh man, very, very true.
The plan is off.
So other like, you know, working with COVID,
Mm.
like at what point were you doing this? How far in were we with all of that?
Well, I'll give you the timetable. Fall, November of 2018, I flew up to Boston to option the script. The writer was out of Boston, Massachusetts, right outside. And so I flew up that morning, had lunch with the guy. He picked me up at the airport. We went and had lunch. I signed the option for the script, flew back home that afternoon with the script. We started pre production. We started preparing to shoot. Um, it was March 20, our first 2 days of photography were March 23rd and 25th, 2020,
Oh,
exactly at the beginning of COVID. And we had done some fundraising to get to that point. We didn't have enough to shoot the whole film, so
mm,
we had enough to shoot a couple of days. So we shot a couple of days. Um, we we were doing casting. We cast through COVID, like all of it. So we cast the first three actors, went on location, shot 2 days, cut together some footage to show investors, and kept stepping forward that way. So um, our last shot was February 27th, 2023.
yo.
That was our last. We had a bonfire shoot that we had to put off. We kept putting off because it involved that Native American actors, and we couldn't find anybody we liked, and it was just one of those things. And so that was our last full day shoot, or last full crew shoot. And so um, we and again we were trying to shoot in the fall, so I take that back. It was not March. It was October 22nd, 25th, 23rd, 25th, 2020. So we started shooting in the fall because we were about to let another fall go by. Our movie takes place in the fall.
Mm,
So if we don't start shooting in the fall, then we're basically waiting another year to shoot the exterior stuff.
yeah.
And we didn't have an interior for our main cabin at that point. So we're like, we got to start shooting. So we got some money together, started shooting in the fall of 2020. And, we were masked up. We had a kid on set, the whole thing. It wasn't ideal. We had to have boxed lunches because we couldn't serve hot food the way we wanted to because, it's become serving issues with COVID.
Mm,
We made it all the way. So anyway, we shot fall of 2020. Then we added some more dates in the spring, got some more money, and one of the things we found, which again we didn't realize, was we knew fundraising wasn't going to be easy. We didn't know it was going to be so hard during COVID because nobody wanted to let loose their money
yeah.
during COVID. Everybody was like, the world's ending. I'm keeping my money. So that was a challenge we weren't expecting. But Mark and I are both, my producer and I, we both are comfortable with long-term projects. So we don't mind stretching it out over time. Not ideal for the actors. It's not ideal for the crew, but it's the way we had to do it.
Mm,
We wouldn't be doing it this way on the next film. Obviously, we would get all our money together and shoot 17 days and be done with it and move on into post. Um, but yeah, so we ended up shooting February 2023. By June, we had it cut and we were off to the races.
Whoa. So
Yeah,
yeah, that's
that's why that
woo.
travel shot was a year apart. Stuff like that. Yeah.
Oh man.
Again,
Yeah, I
lessons of like,
can definitely see you've got a lot to talk about on this podcast. You're gonna do.
yeah,
Like, how difficult was it getting that funding? Did you when you had some for a couple of days of shooting,
yeah.
like were you very conscious of the type of shots that you might need to generate funding, or was it just, well, we'll just shoot these scenes, or did you have to kind of think about that?
We did, and we kind of compartmentalized so that we could. There's two cabins in the movie. One is an old crappy cabin, the one's a nicer cabin. The old crappy cabin, when we found it, we knew it was perfect. They were planning on renovating it, so we knew we had to get in and get out. So that was part of our reasoning for shooting that cabin entirely, shoot it out, be done with it. We were afraid they were going to start tearing it up and fixing it, and it was like it had holes in the wall where squirrels had burrowed through. It was a mess, but it was perfect for the cabin we needed.
Mm.
So we decided we better go ahead and get that. Then the next thing was we had our creature designer make the costume for the creature, and once the latex in those costumes is only good for 6 months or so before it starts to deteriorate. So we
Oh.
once he started, we kind of held off until we knew we could do it, and then we had 2 days of photography with the creature. So we kind of packaged that together, and then when we found the other cabin, we started packaging nights. Because we didn't have the interior figured out yet for the set deck, so we started working on that. Eventually, we had the ability to shoot in the cabin and exteriors on the same day. That way, we could shoot shoot some exterior days, some interior days if it rained, and then exterior nights to kind of make up our day, so that we didn't end up doing the overnights. Um, there were two cabins on the property and a hotel down the street. So whenever we could get 2 days in a row or more, we would rent both cabins. We'd shoot in one, and we'd put up cast and crew in the other, and the hotel down the street. Um, so yeah, we made it all the way through. Let's see, when was that? Probably fall of 2022. We made it 2 years um, before COVID shut us down. Like we thought we
Right.
did it. We thought we were in the clear after 2 years.
Mm.
Yeah, we had to shut down. We had 5 days planned. We got on our third day. One of us didn't start feeling well, so we started testing, and it's like, oh shit, so we had to shut down because we couldn't continue. But we almost made it all the way through without any COVID issues.
That's pretty impressive.
We did all the right things. I mean, we did what we were supposed to do with, taking temperatures and documenting people as they came in, and we didn't have a specific. We were a non-union film, so we didn't have to have a SAG representative on set making sure everything was done right, etc. But we still did all those things as best we could, so that we wouldn't cause our actors any harm, right? I mean, last thing we want to do is have them not be able to take a job because they were exposed on our set.
Mm.
So we did everything that the CDC recommended, and we tried to make sure that we were good to our cast and crew, both with protecting them from COVID and isolating each other, and from masking and hot food, etc.
Yeah, and being outside as well, right?
Oh,
I think that's a
that was
big
awful.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We didn't really shoot. We had one interior day on the crappy cabin, which we were all masked up for. But exteriors was a lot easier for sure.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And so when you were casting this, what was there anything in particular you had in mind for the characters? Was there a clear, okay, this is what they got to be like, or was it just more on the performance of the actors when they? came to audition?
Well, it's a bit like that boxing match analogy. You go into it thinking you know what you want, and then somebody blows your hair off, and you think, well, that's the guy that I need to have, or the actor that I need for this role. It's clearly that person. It's not what I thought at all, but it's really that person. We had there's an acting school here in Nashville that we like a lot and we work with a lot, and they were nice enough to let us use their facility to do a casting call or
Wow.
to do
Mm.
callbacks. And one of their actors stayed and was a reading partner for the actors who were auditioning. She didn't audition for a role, but at the end of the day, we realized that she was a candidate. So we said, "Hey, why don't you audition for the role of Shay, and we'll read for you? And why don't you get up in front of us, in front of the camera, and read?" And she goes, "All right, sure, I'll do that." Well, we ended up booking her for the job. So she was reading for us all day long, and then at the end of the day, we put her in front of the camera and realized, well, that's our Shay right there.
Well, that's nice,
Yeah,
right? I think, and it also shows, you know what I mean? Sometimes, like, if you put yourself out there, things can go your way, you
that's
know what I
exactly
mean?
right. Yeah,
So, yeah, that's nice to hear, man.
luck is a matter of being in the right place at the right time, and you have a lot of that you have control over.
Yes. Well,
Yeah,
yeah, because, I think it's also being, always ready for opportunity,
that's right. Yeah,
right? Because if she had said, you know what, I'm meant to meet my friend for a drink, so I
yeah,
can't,
yeah,
she doesn't get the film, you know
right.
what I mean? But she was just like, yeah, why not?
Yeah,
And boom, it happens.
yeah. I think that's one thing. Mark and I don't give ourselves too much credit for a lot of this, but one of the things we do give ourselves credit for is A, recognizing opportunity. We're both pretty good at that. And B, we're both kind of proud of the cast and crew that we picked. We'll give ourselves credit for that because ultimately that was, I mean, it's all our decision. But I'm willing to pat myself on the back a little bit for having chosen the actors and the crew that we did.
Mm. Yeah, I think there is a skill in finding potential. I worked with a great boss, and it was my first management role. I hadn't had any management experience, but I'd worked at a senior level. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? I'd taken, the responsibilities on. So I knew what I was talking about. But you go for so many interviews and they're just like, well, if you don't have this, then no.
Right,
But she saw the potential.
right,
And it was like that with everyone that worked there. They didn't necessarily come from, years of experience, but they knew what they're talking about, right?
right.
They had the ambition. She saw it and gave people that chance. Everyone blossomed, right? Everyone showed that she was right in taking that chance on them.
Yeah,
And that's huge. That's a huge thing.
yeah,
And I think I always commend those people that give people those opportunities. They're not beholden to, oh, well, you don't have this many SAG credits, or, oh, you haven't done a blockbuster film with Tom Cruise, so we don't want, you know what I mean? Which is all nonsense. If you can deliver those lines, if you can be believable,
yeah,
you could potentially do it,
yeah.
and so yeah, no, it's always good to hear when people say these things, man. So yeah, definitely give yourself a pat on the back for doing that.
Yeah,
There's it doesn't always work, right? It
right,
doesn't always work.
right. I like the word genuine. If they appear to be genuine on camera, that's really all we're after, right? If you can see the actor processing the lines, it's no good.
Mm.
They just have to be genuine. Another, like Meg, who plays Lori in our film, she she had just been accepted into the Navy band as a singer
Oh,
here in the U.S. And she auditioned for our film and said to herself, "Well, if I get a call back for this film, then then that's a sign I'm gonna become an actor, and I'm gonna let the Navy band. I'm gonna decline the invitation to be in the Navy business, which was a big deal.
Yeah.
We
No,
didn't
for
know
sure.
we didn't know that, so we called her back for a callback, and that's when she told us. Well, actually, it wasn't even then; it was later. She told us later that, oh yeah, I turned down the Navy band to be in your movie, and we're like, oh shit, that's a lot of pressure.
Oh my god, there's so much, especially at the
Yeah,
beginning where you didn't have all the funding, you know what I mean? And you
yeah,
got this, and then
yeah,
COVID's happening, and it's just there's so many films that
yeah,
didn't get finished because
yeah,
of COVID,
yeah,
because of funding and all of that kind of
yeah,
thing. So, yo, that's rolling the dice, but I love
yeah.
that,
But
right?
she was right for the role. She was perfect opposite Austin, who played Grady. That was we had to do a chemistry read with those two because that was important.
Mm.
And yeah, when we knew Meg was perfect for the role, and found out later that she had kind of made a life change to be in our movie. And like, we feel a lot of pressure to do right by our actors who didn't get paid a ton of money. I mean, their pay really is in having a good piece of work to show. And it's like that was a lot of pressure to make sure that we didn't screw up, so that she had a good film under her belt. She's since gone on to do other things. She has an agent now, so she's doing well. But still a lot of pressure.
Mm. But it's I think taking a chance on yourself is another big thing, right?
Yeah,
Being ready for opportunity and willing to take that chance. There's so many times, like I hear people talking, I really want this thing, but there's no attempt to
right.
get there, right? I've been to a few comic conventions, and you go to the Marvel panels, the DC panels, and people are like, how can I write for you? And they're
Yeah,
like, oh, I mean, what examples have you got? And they're like, oh, I mean, I don't. And it's
right,
just like, why would they take a chance on you if you haven't even tried to produce your own shit?
right.
Which isn't, obviously it costs some money, but it's doable. You can do it, and you haven't even tried. So why is someone going to take the
Yeah,
chance, right? So
yeah.
it's just like working on an indie film. No, you're not going to be making millions. You'll make money, right? So you can pay some
Hopefully.
bills, right? So
Yeah,
you can pay some bills, but then it's your CV. You've also
right,
now got this proof of process, right? You can go, yes, I can act. This is me in this scenario. This is
right.
me in this other scenario, right? This is proof of life. You know what I mean? I can do the thing. So why wouldn't you think that's pretty good? Especially when you have no credits, right? Or you've got one or two ads or something. It's not a bad situation, right? I think sometimes people, I remember leaving university and everyone's talking about, oh, what jobs are you going to go for? And they're just like, well, unless it's paying 50 grand, I'm not going. And I'll be like, okay. I mean, what experience have you got? Oh,
Yeah,
none. And it's like, so why do you think someone's going to pay you 50 fucking grand?
yeah,
You
yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah,
It makes no sense, right? So, you take shitty paid jobs, right?
yeah.
Because it's the building blocks, right? To show what you can do and achieve.
I think a lot of that is generational too. I mean, you and I are a little older than most, and we end up the younger folks. I mean, when I was teaching, they're all swinging for the fence. You know,
Mm,
they don't want to. They don't want to use a baseball analogy. They don't want to bunt and let the guy go from first to second. They want to hit a home run every single
yeah,
time. It's like you just can't.
no. I mean, yeah, like kind of you can set yourself up for the possibility of hitting that home run,
That's right.
but
Yeah,
understand that you might not be able to do it.
yeah,
So yeah, go to first base, then
yeah,
go to second base, then third, and then you've got the opportunity to make a homer. I
yeah.
don't, I don't play baseball.
I
I don't
don't
quite
either.
know.
I'm not a baseball fan at all. I don't know why I thought of baseball as a reference.
Yeah, I used up all my knowledge in, in that.
You tapped out. Yeah, yeah. And then you
No,
score a goal, and it's all perfect.
yeah. No, but I think these are just really valuable lessons that people can learn from. So, man, it's great that both of these actors, they took that chance and they, what I mean, got
Yeah,
something great out of it. So
yeah,
that's splendid.
yeah. I look forward to seeing. I mean, our goal all along has been to pay our investors back first, and then to do right by our actors so that they have the chance to turn this into something else.
Mm.
And then also for ourselves is to be able to make the next film. I was just telling Mark the other day, it's like we just spent 4 years learning how to speak Chinese, and we've been to China like once for a week. It's like we need to go to China again. We need it. We're not, all the things we've learned will streamline the process so much better for the next time.
Oh,
We
for
just
sure.
we just have to keep moving, and that was our goal. Is even if the two of us don't personally make a lot of money off of this, it's to turn this into the next opportunity.
Yeah, because it's the experience, right?
Yeah,
That's the thing you gain from it. If
yeah,
it's not millions, right, you've gained experience, which then is just priceless when it comes to setting up the next one, because you know
yeah,
the barriers, you know the difficulties, you know what to plan for, what to mitigate for,
yeah,
right? It's all there, and other things will come up for sure, but you're able to streamline things.
yeah. It gets back to problem solving. It makes your problem solving that much easier because you've done it already.
Mm.
You know exactly how to bail when it's raining and go inside and make your day on the interiors. Or, like there was a time when one of our actors was sick, and we had to have that night we were scheduled to shoot all five actors at once. So we dressed up our hair and makeup artist like that actor because she looked the most like her, and snuck her in the background. You'll never know, but we solved the problem. We fixed it.
Mm.
You know, but that sort of thing, it makes it easier for you to figure out next time how to fix the problem.
Yeah, no, that's great.
For the next pandemic, we have to shoot through it. We'll know, we'll know exactly how to shoot through a damn pandemic.
Oh my gosh. I hope that shit doesn't happen again.
I, I don't want to live through it. Let's put it that way.
Oh boy. Now, like, because you said earlier, what I mean, that your background was photography.
Yes.
So what did that set you up for? Right? Like moving into the moving image.
Mhm.
Was there a lot that you could take from that photography background, and why? Right, but after doing
Yeah,
all of that, what was it that was just like, you know what? I want to make movies.
definitely. Well, Mark and I, we were both 35 years in the business of still photography. So we know color, we know composition, we know lighting, we know camera. The only thing that we didn't know or that we had to figure out, which we had been doing for 10 years prior to this, is camera moves, the actual camera moving and
Mm,
motivating it so that it makes sense. But going from still photography to film, all of the things that we know without having to think about it in still photography will all translate to video or to film. Everything, exposure, everything. So it's just a matter of the camera moving and the addition of adding audio. But it's essentially the same other than that.
right. Okay.
I mean,
Interesting.
I think early on, Mark and I realized that we tended to shoot film on sticks because we're used to being on sticks
Mm,
and maybe some slider kind of stuff. But jib moves and dolly in and out and trucking side to side and all of the camera moves. Um, it took us a little time to learn how to move the camera that made sense and blocking. Like if you've got people moving foreground to background and crossing, extras crossing and things like that. That is different than still photography, but all the mechanics is basically the same.
Right, right. And what inspired the move?
The move over to film.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, Mark has a degree in theater lighting or theater. I'm not sure what it is. He's a theatrical degree, and so he's always been involved in movies in one way or another. And I just like the idea. I mean, I've been doing the same thing more or less for long enough where it's not a challenge anymore. And even though even though still photography is challenging, it's not a lot of times it's not a team sport.
Mm,
And what I like about film is that it's a team sport. I mean, we had at most we had 25 people or so on set, but we had a total of I think 80 or 85 people make the movie,
right.
and it's pretty cool. It's I like um, well on a film our size, Mark and I tended to wear half dozen hats each.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah.
shopping for craft services, going to the fabric store to buy drapes. Like we're doing a lot of things, but with a crew, you can assign tasks to everybody and relieve yourself of some of that pressure, which is awesome. I just was a I had a there's a film competition here in Middle Tennessee that is a timed competition, like kind of like the 48 hour. You may have heard that 48-hour film project.
Yeah.
There's something similar to that here. There's a small group that does it, and I had one of the actors reached out to me because their gaffer had a family emergency last minute, and they said, would you mind coming and helping us, and can you bring your lighting gear?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, I'll help out. You know, it's a little far below the line from what I'm used to, but yeah, absolutely, I'll come do that." And so I brought lighting and stuff, and I realized that day as we're working, it's a 1 day shoot. I realized how much I enjoyed only being responsible for bringing grip and electric. I didn't have to think about audio. I didn't have to think about directing. I didn't have to think about camera, lenses, set decoration, catering, nothing. All I had to do was bring lighting and stands and grip. And that was all I had to do. That's really refreshing. Only have to do one thing, you know. So, I think eventually it'd be nice to maybe only have to direct,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
you know. But on a film our size, you end up doing a lot of stuff. I mean, Mark and I are both producing, so it's like we have to make sure the whole thing runs. Um, it's up to us to make sure it runs and the food's there and hot and everything else.
Mm, mm. What? So, would you say directing is the thing you enjoy the most out of all of that stuff?
Um, I like cinematography. I mean, if I weren't directing, I'd be happy to be a cinematographer as well, or in place of. I just I like having sort of ownership over the project.
Mm,
I like being the creative who either the producer who thought of the idea, had a screenwriter write it, and executed it. Ultimately, I like the responsibility of being the one who created the project, the showrunner. But like I said, I do like sometimes just being a cog in the wheel too. I mean, just being a part of the group without the responsibility is nice from time to time also.
mm. Yeah. No, I definitely get that. I definitely because the thing I find frustrating sometimes when you're helping out on something and there's no contingencies for things,
Right.
and you're just like, I mean, surely someone's done that, right? And they're like, oh no. And you're like, what about? And like, no. And it's just like, oh my God, what's
Yeah.
happening here? If I was doing this, I would have done this, this, and this. And you're just like, you know what I mean? I need to be taking taking
Right.
control of these things.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, I can see that.
It's interesting working on a short film where you don't have any authorship or ownership over it, and yet you still want to provide advice if you see that they're messing something up or not thinking of something. You still want to kind of help because ultimately
Mm,
your name is on the thing. But if your name is far enough down the thing, it doesn't really affect you. It's you know, you're not the one making the creative decisions,
Yeah.
and I don't mind being responsible for that. So that's why I'm content with being producer or director or even cinematographer, because I'm okay with that responsibility.
Mm, yeah. Now, with this film, right? You cast everyone. How did you get the chemistry?
Well, really, a lot of them knew each other already,
Ah,
and or had heard of each other or had been taking classes at the same acting school, just not the same class. The two roles that we wanted to make sure had good chemistry were Mark and Dan, the two brothers, and Lori and Grady, who had a small romantic scene together. Uh,
mm,
they're together a lot. Mark and Dan are together a lot. So we wanted to make sure, and Dan and Shay. So there's several characters were together a lot, and we just wanted to make sure that they worked together well. And we really only did one chemistry read, and that was between Meg and Austin for the characters of Lori and Grady, because they had probably the most intimate of all of the scenes with each other. Um, but yeah, everybody just gelled. Right now we're in the phase of putting up social media to announce the launch of the movie, and it's really been awesome to see how each of the actors are being so supportive and commenting and sharing each other's posts about the movie, because we've been kind of making sure that we had control over what goes public up until now.
yeah.
And so now we're, announcing actors in their roles, and we're announcing the cinematographer, and soon we'll announce the distribution deal. And it's just great watching them support each other and talk about how great it was. Because, I mean, hell, like I said, it was almost 4 years ago when through 3.5 years ago we started shooting. So, they have memories of working together a long time ago.
I mean, that's really important on, and especially on a short film,
Yeah,
right? And an indie film,
yeah,
that the actors and those involved help with the promotion. There's
yeah,
the amount of times, right? So after, I've covered a film, spoken to someone, you're building out the website, right? And I'm always about putting the most information up, because I want people to be able to, find, where can I watch this film, right? How can I follow, be like, oh, I really enjoyed that film. How can I follow the director? How can I follow the actor? So I'm
right,
trying to put all that information up. And
right,
so you're going through, like, say, Instagram, and an actor has no reference to that film on their channel. They've got
yeah,
all these other major projects, but not this indie one.
yeah,
And it's just like, yo, what's happening there? Like,
yeah,
what's going on? This is bonkers,
yeah. Are you
right?
afraid? Are you embarrassed of the shoot we did?
Yeah,
Yeah,
but your name's on it,
yeah,
right? So why hide that? Because your
right,
name's there.
right,
Like, so promote it, get it out there, because that only benefits you. So
right.
it's very odd when, there is that. So it's nice to hear that everyone's, like, down for it, and
Yeah,
helping.
yeah. And they're sharing. They'll take my post. We're collaborating with the actors and collaborating with the cinematographer, and then they're taking the post and putting it in their Instagram story, and they are having a little comment about what it was like to work with them on this film, and so it's been great, and it's been fun to watch them all kind of band together like that. I mean, we were always good on set. We had no problems on set with anybody, and no personality conflicts, nothing like that. And it's just been great watching everybody kind of band together, as because they're all very excited about the release of this film, and
Mm.
so they're all very anxious to share about it.
Well, yeah, when you put all that time into something, right? I mean,
Yeah,
even like this has been 4 or 5 years, but even if it was just 6 months, right? That's still
right.
6 months you could have been doing something else.
Yeah,
So I'd be shouting off the rooftops that, yo, I did this thing with these people. We achieved this. This is
yeah,
what we achieved. right?
Right.
Even if you don't necessarily get on with everyone, you should, like, there's projects I've done that I didn't particularly like everyone that I was working with, but we work to achieve something. So
Right.
you're still professional with those people. We're
Yeah.
not going for a drink afterwards, but we're still professional and we still achieve something. So
Yeah.
you still want to talk about it,
Right.
right? So yeah, no, I think that's great, man.
Well,
I
no matter what, you've all been through something together.
mm,
Good or bad, you've all kind of survived sort of a boot camp together. And it's filmmaking is hard, right? If it was easy, everyone would do it.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
so each role has their own issues to deal with, but we're doing it together, and it's pretty fun.
Mm. Yeah, no, that's great, man. Oh, there's something I was just like, yo, that was a great addition on the film. The trail cameras,
Uh,
right? Because that added to this new level of tension because there'd be the flashes,
right.
right? So you're not seeing anything, but you see a flash. And I thought, yo,
Yeah.
because I don't think I've seen that before. So was like, that was like a really interesting
Yeah.
component, right? There's a lot of times it's music people use to kind of, show some sinister thing, which I'm not always a fan of. So it's like the trail cameras were great. That was a really nice addition. Like,
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was in the script, so that was always the plan. It's just a matter of how we execute it.
mm, yeah. I mean, with the outdoor shoot, because I was speaking to Travis Bible, who did Chad Got the Axe, I believe the film was called.
Uh-huh.
And they did a lot of outdoor shooting, and he was saying the difficulties of outdoor shooting.
Yeah.
And they utilized Apple TV, which I thought was pretty genius, to be able to get all the cameras syncing and working and downloading all the content and everything like that. Like, how did you find that aspect of things?
Of shooting outdoors.
Mm,
Well, we had I think it's probably 100-acre property we were shooting at with the two cabins, a pine forest, lots of woods, and like so the lake, as in the lake of Legend of Lake Hollow, is really a pond. So when
right.
you when you see, I'm going to give away the secret, but when you see a wide shot of a lake, nowhere near where we were shooting, that's second unit shooting a lake.
Right,
The
right.
pond, the pond in front of the cabin was maybe 100 feet across, 100 feet square around, rather.
Yeah.
So, we would show the boat going in the water or the water from across the pond with the cabin, but to get to your question, one of the things that we didn't account for was the noise of the frogs in the pond,
Yo,
like
okay.
chirping all night long. And so, like even when we're shooting at the house, which is maybe 100 feet away from the pond, we had to send a PA down to kind of like make some noise and rustle leaves and try to get the damn frogs to shut up.
Okay, I thought you were gonna say you sent the PA to ask him to be quiet, and I was like,
Eating sticks on the reeds and just making a commotion. And then as soon as we call roll, they'd stop, and we'd see how long we could go before the frogs came back to life. I'm telling you, problem solving it just never ends. One night
oh,
it was super windy. We were shooting at all seasons, so sometimes it's cold. The actors were having to, like, the movie takes place in the fall, so everyone's kind of like in fall clothing.
yeah,
But sometimes it was 90, sometimes it was 30, and they're either cold or hot, wearing the same outfit, regardless of the temperature. And so just had to work around all that stuff.
mm, yeah, boy, things to think like wouldn't have thought about frogs. Wouldn't
Yeah,
have thought about frogs, man.
yeah, yeah. One of the things that I'm kind of proud of is that there's no stock footage anywhere in that movie. Everything we shot, including like the drone photography, is actually in West Virginia. The lake is our lakes nearby. The bird landing, the vultures in the sky. It's all practical. Like we shot everything.
Uh, nice.
Yeah,
Oh, that's great, man.
yeah,
That's really impressive. Great job.
yeah. So Mark and I would be second unit, and we, if it was going to be a good foggy morning on the lake, we would pack up in the dark and go to the lake and set up and shoot lake fog,
Mm.
or whatever we needed. We'd go shoot it.
Oh man. Yo, so have you had the chance to kind of watch it with an audience yet?
Yeah, we did a screening. We rented a theater and did a screening for cast and crew plus ones. So we had 110 people or so in the theater. We had a DCP made, and we showed it on I don't know, 75, 80 foot, a big theater screen,
Mm.
and in 5:1, and it was pretty awesome. Partially because it was great to see it on a big screen, but also it was pretty fun because a lot of the people who came, some of the people who came had never been on set with the other before.
Oh.
All the actors had worked with each other, but some of the crew, like we had three different audio guys because of scheduling. So,
Mm.
and, so we had probably 60 of our crew out of the 80 or so that we had on the film come. Plus, they brought uh, friends and family. It was pretty awesome. It was great. Everyone got a chance to finally see the film.
Nice.
Yeah.
And what was that reaction like?
Oh, they were all well. Our investors came too. We invited our investors. Um, everybody was really happy with the way it turned out, and it's like the actors, I'm sure, remember shooting scenes or takes that they don't now see on the screen, which is part of it. Like
Mm.
there was parts that didn't we shot it because it was in the script, but ultimately during the edit we felt like it didn't advance the story, so we just cut it. So I'm sure they were like, "Hey, wait a minute, didn't I say? Why is that not there?" But I think everybody likes the film. Everybody's happy with the way it turned out, including the investors. So I think we managed to pull it off.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, people are wondering when will they get the opportunity to watch the film, man?
March 26th. I don't know what day this is going to be made public, but March 26th, it'll be available anywhere you can transactionally buy or rent a movie. And there is going to be physical media as well. So we will have DVDs, which I can't wait to get my hands on one. And yeah, so March 26th, and then they'll start selling it internationally. It'll actually be in the UK on, I think, Sky. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that's one of the places it'll be. So yeah, it's going to be everywhere. You can rent or buy movies next on Tuesday.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So how can people keep track of, everything that you're doing?
Well, our Instagram is Penumbra Films, Penumbra Films. And if you just search for Penumbra Entertainment on Facebook, we're there as well. And our website is penumbra-ent.com.
Boom. So the links will be on the website, people. So make sure that you follow and check out all the great work. Like, yeah, do you know what could be next?
Actually, the writer who I flew to Boston to meet with just delivered to me Legend of Lake Hollow 2, the
Ah,
script. So we're mulling that over right now. We have the one that I wrote that I'm going to try to simplify to make it a little more reasonable to shoot. And so we're looking. We don't haven't decided for sure what's next, but we're looking.
hmm.
Yeah, the way this movie ends sets up for another one. So we did that. We did that on purpose. So yeah, we may be shooting another one. If this goes off well, we may be doing another.
Okay. Yeah, I did wonder about that. So that's interesting to hear.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
we'll see.
Okay. Okay. Any more TV work, or do you think you'll just stay with films for the future?
I think I want to stick with films. I think we may kind of look into doing something that is more episodic. Um, there's a writers group here in Nashville that we are members of, and I think we're gonna see what else we can find locally that we can produce. I like the idea of doing something um, episodic, or even something like the Coen Brothers, The Legend of Buster Scruggs,
Mm, mm.
where it's little pieces, anthology, I guess you call it.
Yeah.
I like the idea of doing a series of something. Mark and I have both done series of. Well, we did a web series. I mean, yeah, a web series of it was 13 episodes. So we like the idea of doing things in sequence. So we may be working on that next.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right. Well, yeah, we'll keep our eyes open to see what comes next from you, my man.
sounds good. Thank you, Kevin.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate the time, man. And yeah, I hope you have great success with the film. So
Thank
good
you.
luck with everything.
Thank you much. Great talking to you.
Awesome. Come back and talk about the new projects, man, when you're ready.
Will do.
All right, splendid.
All right.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. Take care.
All right, take care.